If you use PaintScout and you're looking to automate more of the data entry into PaintScout and then back into your CRM, I want to walk through in this video how to understand and leverage the Zapier integration that PaintScout has by understanding the various types of triggers and actions that PaintScout has. So if that's of interest, stick around because that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Welcome back to the channel. My name is Chris. I am the owner of Boolean Automation, where our mission is to free you up to do what you love. We help painting companies choose which technology, which softwares are right for their business. We get all those softwares talking together, and when we do, magic happens. You're able to eliminate massive amounts of data entry, eliminate errors, streamline reporting, and save lots of money on marketing because you actually know which projects are working for you and which projects are not, where you're making money, where you're losing money. But that's what we do here at Boolean. Anything from $1 or $2 million painting company that's looking to scale quickly, all the way up to $10 or $15 million painting companies. And we've even been consultants for franchise painting companies when trying to map out the correct tech stack in their business. So if you're a painting company that's looking to scale and wants the best tech, reach out down in the description below for more information on that. All right, let's dive into the PaintScout Zapier integration. So just about, this would be January of 2024, PaintScout released a public version of their Zap, which was long awaited, and they now have a lot of triggers. So I want to run through these one by one. Some of them are straightforward, some of them are more confusing. So I'm going to explain what those are and how that works and potential use cases for those. So starting at the top, well, I guess I would say, if you're brand new to Zapier, let me know what questions you have. I can make some more content on that. But the two things to understand is that PaintScout has a few different things going on here. You have the trigger, which initiates the Zap. And then after the trigger, you have a series of actions. So you'll notice that there are different actions for PaintScout if it's down here versus up here, which is triggers. So all I'm going to cover in this video is the triggers of PaintScout. I'll have a separate video that dives into the actions and potential use cases for those actions. So triggers, create a contact. Let's start here. So trigger right at the top, contact is created. This is just like it sounds. When I create a contact inside of PaintScout like this, if I'm in here and click create a contact, as soon as I hit confirm, that's the trigger, and then something happens. So this could be like sending stuff to MailChimp, updating your CRM, something, but that's the contact created trigger. The next one, an invoice additional work accepted. So this is for when a invoice, and there's actually a big difference between proposals and invoices. I made a separate video on that, but this is saying when you add additional work to the invoice specifically, which is different than adding the additional work to the quote, when that work is accepted, have something happen. So this is a new trigger that they added literally like a week ago, but this fires every single time more additional work is accepted on the invoice. This one, invoice sent, straightforward, just like it sounds. Invoice status change. So this one, if you look at the option for invoice status change here, you'll see that we've got draft, sent, viewed, partial, and paid. So there are different types of statuses that can happen on the invoice. So if I go in and show you, for example, this can be either when it is automatically triggered by the system, or in here, if the status changes from sent to partial, for example. I'm going to go ahead, let's go and actually watch this in real time. If I say I want to know when a quote or an invoice changes to partial, I'm going to hit continue. I can now say I want to test this trigger. So I'm ready to test it. Right here, I'm going to say partial and then hit confirm. So as soon as I move that to partial, I can now test the trigger. And I want to see this one for Darth Vader. Invoice ID number 3 is the one that I'm looking for. So we're going to test this. And we have invoice number 3. It's partial. There we go. So that's the invoice triggered. So if you want to know when things are being paid or whatnot, that's what that one's for. One thing to notice is that this is only when the status changes. So theoretically, if someone pays $100 and then they pay another $500, the status is still going to be partial because it's not. It's only when the status changes. So it's going to fire when you send it, if the customer views it and when it's partial, but if it's multiple levels of partial, or if the customer continues to view the quote, it's only when the status changes. So just keep that in mind. It's important to understand that it's only the status change. The invoice tag added. So when a tag is added to the invoice, that again was right. So right when I click on the top there, I can choose to add a tag. Right now, there are no invoice tags. And quite frankly, I'm not sure of many clients that use invoice tags, but that would be, again, at the act of adding tags. I do know that if you're interested in adding tags, you would do that in the account settings. And under invoicing here, you can, so I can add a tag that is called TNT, which is one of my client calls when you don't want to work with somebody. I can do blacklist, whatever it is that I want there. Now, when I go back into here, I'm going to refresh the page. If I want to add a given tag to an invoice, that's where that's going to happen. I go in here and select. Oh, I didn't hit save. There we go. Save that. Now over here, go ahead and refresh. And tags. So I hit TNT. The moment I add that tag, now the thing fires, and that's whenever the tag is added. You have a separate one for when it's removed, just like you would think if invoice tag is removed. Quote additional work accepted. So I do want to explain this. I'll just jump in right here. If I have additional work on the proposal or the quote here, then, and this is accepted, that's what has that trigger, or that thing trigger. If I'm looking at right now I'm looking at the invoice. So if this was accepted, it would be the invoice work order accepted trigger. If I'm looking at the estimate and I have work orders here, that's what triggers that one. And you might be saying, that's stupid, it should sync. They don't. I know it's annoying, but just keep in mind that there are two different triggers, and the invoice only exists when you create it, or if you have that automatically create invoice setting turned on. When the quote gets accepted, you then get an invoice. So just keep in mind, there are two different ways that you can be notified when work is accepted or additional work is accepted. Quote sent. This is a key one. Notice that it says anytime that the trigger has been, or that the status changes, or if it's sent or resent. So you can have a quote sent multiple times, and every single time the quote is sent, this is going to have the quote or the trigger fire again. If for some reason you only wanted it to fire one time, you could do when the quote status changes. So I'll show you the difference here. In the quote status change, I could say when the quote status changes to sent, I could do this trigger, and this would only fire when it's sent the first time or when it switches to sent. If you want it to fire every single time, that's when you would use the quote sent trigger, which fires every single time it's sent. And then the tag added or removed, those are exactly like you would expect. But those are the overview of the triggers. If you have any questions about how to set this up, the most common thing that I like seeing is when a bid or when a estimate is scheduled for an estimator, you should have the quote automatically being created inside of PaintScout for you. And if you do it right, you can actually save the ID of that opportunity or deal in your CRM, save it into the quote. So later, when you send the quote, you can go back and update your CRM with all the information from the quote. So we do this type of stuff all the time. If you have any questions with PaintScout or getting it integrated, please reach out. We'd be happy to help, give you a free consultation. My name is Chris. This is Boolean, where we free you up to do what you love.